Bank of America coming out and saying that a full-on recession unlikely to be happening as they revise their views to be a little bit more soft, let's say. But what does that mean in the short term for Bitcoin and traditional markets as well? We'll actually be looking at and following up on some of those setups that we were looking at yesterday is the topic of today. And other than that, I'm going to welcome you back to the Krown Crypto channel. It is a nice but not so nice Thursday over here, and I think it's time for us to just jump right into it. So whenever it's Thursday, I always like to remind myself, and perhaps the community here as well, that Thursday is statistically speaking the most likely down day for Bitcoin specifically, and by extension most cryptocurrencies. So if there is going to be generally a big downside day, Thursday is typically the day that it does happen. It doesn't mean that every Thursday has to be down, but the biggest down days are most often on Thursday, actually. So with that in mind, and as we go through it, I do want to first follow up on the hourly time frame setup that we're looking at on yesterday's on yesterday's video. That one played out, obviously. Bitcoin did play out that down, or that one played out, obviously. Bitcoin played out that downside move. It's like, duh, no shit. So that one is off the table now. Hourly is, we can just wait for the next one, I suppose, as they do start to populate. But anyways, going back into Bitcoin's chart over here, a few things of interest, especially keeping in mind that it is Thursday, obviously. There are some more downside signals actually starting to populate themselves. First and foremost, well, I don't know about foremost, but firstly, we got the 12-hour time frame over here showing hidden bearish divergence on that confirmed rejective last lower high. So short term, yeah, Bitcoin probably does test back down somewhere around the overall range lows. Also, we can see that there's a 12-hour silver cross to the downside starting as well. I mean, this one actually fired off a few closures ago here on Tuesday, I believe it was, the 1st of August, but now starting to get a little bit of spread within these major moving averages as Bitcoin is operating below all major moving averages now. So that technically would be pressure on, in this case, to the downside as volatility is on extreme lows right here. Now they've been on extreme lows for quite some time, but this technically speaking has been the lowest volatility that we have seen on the 12-hour time frame throughout the last couple weeks here, as Bitcoin does get prepared to potentially actually break this damn range that we've been living in, or that Bitcoin's been living in for the last couple weeks here. So with that in mind, what's the next thing that I want to get into over here? Yes, that's right. Okay, so going over to Stockland, we can see over here on NASDAQ that while we do see, Bank of America, revising their projections about recession, blah, 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 basically major bears starting to capitulate on their views. This would be a pretty damn good time for a pullback for traditional markets. Again, this has essentially hit, our major area over here, that 16,000-ish region that we had marked off for several months in advance. Approached it rather fast as well. That's completely fine. And while I do believe that this one very likely does come down, maybe not this far. This LARP line's a bit overextended. Let me actually revise this one. I'm going to revise my own projections. How about that? Not that it necessarily needs to be perfect, but something like this, very likely does come down as these, major institutions start to catch on, and as the general population starts to catch on as well. So long term, I still would be looking at this as very likely to put in a higher low and very likely to be, macro bullish long term. However, in the short term, this would be a damn good place for a pullback, as NAS has essentially grinded up against this long term region right here, coming in from the breakdown that we did see in January of 2022. This is going to be accompanied by regular bearish divergence of the 1, 2, 3 drives variety on weekly RSI right there. Not putting them in just yet because it is not necessarily a confirmed high just yet. And this probably does take some time to play out, to be fair, but also we see the weekly jewel pointed in that downwards posturing. So I would be looking for a corrective move, probably throughout the month of August, maybe even a bit of September as well, kind of in alignment with what we did see on Bitcoin. So if you watched Sunday or Monday's video, we went over the statistics of August, which is more likely to be a downside corrective month, maybe not like a full-on fucking collapse month. I don't think that that's what's happening. I basically have the same views on Bitcoin as I do on traditional markets right here. It's like it probably does come down a bit. Question is how much, and probably going to be a major opportunity. Still looking at low $28,000 territory as a major area of interest. But in this case right here, it can take some time. I mean, this was more or less an unabated run from the lows of about 10,000, 11,000 all the way up to 16,000, and probably going to be getting the first, major correction here, I suspect. So with that in mind, we can now go over into the HBGR ranges for Bitcoin. It is being walked down a little bit here. As you can see, now the top side of the current 4-hour range is coming in at 30,000 bucks. The bottom side has been walked down to 28.5. I expect that's going to be continuing to be walked down there. And I still look at, low $28,000 territory as the first sort of area where it's like, hey, we might see a major low put in somewhere around here. Again, major lows in the current trajectory for Bitcoin. I would not be considering anything, potential major low right here, as long as Bitcoin is basically below Wednesday's high, so yesterday's high, which was just over 30,000 bucks. That is to say that if Bitcoin even just trades back above that region, that rejective high that we saw from yesterday, I would be looking at that as a damn good indication that Bitcoin is going to shoot back up to the prior highs that we did see earlier in July at 31,000 or 32,000 bucks. Probably, consolidate a little bit more and then continue on with that overall rally. So the real question is there a potential for a trap right here? There's always a potential, right? There is always a potential. It's just, how likely is that? We'll actually get into a particular setup with that a little bit later, because there is still that 12-hour setup that does suggest, hey, Bitcoin probably does try a rally from here. But to be fair, I wouldn't be surprised if that one does fail in this case. Anyways, again, if Bitcoin does fall back down to about 28,000 bucks, or sorry, low 28s, let's call it 28.1, 28.2, I would be looking for bounces there, and that would be a nice, nice potential region. Anyways, going over here to the daily look, do we have anything new to be looking at? Or sorry, maybe the 12-hour look is the one. No, the 12-hour and the daily actually going to be showing relatively similar. Yeah, the 12-hour going to be showing that low $28,000 territory, and the average of the range coming in kind of around yesterday's closures on highs. So I do still like that area. If Bitcoin can reclaim it, that would be a damn good indication that, hey, correction is going to, or this corrective low is already in at basically 28.5. I'm kind of looking for 28.2. It's like, am I being greedy with that? I don't fucking know. But of course, the same sort of interpretation still aligns with this. If Bitcoin does fail below, let's call it 28,000, on a medium or higher term time frame closing basis, especially at that point, I'd really start to entertain possibilities of a much more severe correction, somewhere down around, at least 26,900, 26,800, somewhere around there, along this nice vertical bar, horizontal bar. And if that one does fail, then, at that point, can start to look down towards just below 25,000 bucks. But until then, just one by one, the same areas are still very much relevant in this case, at least in the way that I look at things. Anyways, yes, so we've gone through that. Let's go through stochastic momentum. Definitely more downside angled here. We can see that the 5-day time frame is going to continue with downside momentum on CME as long as Bitcoin is below 31,250. 2-day time frame is also be severely downside angled below 31,000 bucks. Daily time frame is actually going to be up here above 28,900, which Bitcoin's trading at $300 above right now, so that's good. But I'd still look at those higher term timeframes as, I look at them as like more weighty, if you will. Anyways, 12-hour time frame going to be showing downside below 29,320, which Bitcoin's currently about $80 below right now on CME, so doesn't really mean too much, with plenty of time left to go in that closing period. 6-hour time frame down below 29,750. 4-hour time frame is going to be showing downside below 29,700, and hourly is going to be showing actually upside above 29,150. So when I do see bifurcation in between those time frames, yeah, there is a potential for a bit of a trap here. Definitely possible. But what would actually be indicative of and confirm a bear trap from this exact area right here? Need to see either a tick above yesterday's high. If we're looking at closures, could we do something that's a little bit closer, at least as like a warning signal? Yeah, I would say the average of the 4-hour range at about 29,350 would be okay in this case. At least for like a major warning signal that, hey, yeah, actually there is starting to be some, a bit of bottoming behavior in this current area. Speaking of, and as we kind of get into maybe the hopium of this particular video, I will go now into the 12-hour setup that we were looking at yesterday. Let me just go back on over here. There we go. And this still, this one is still very much active. Again, over 47 total closed trades. Just over 68% of these did have a nice upside move. In this case, this one did fire off back on over on Thursday of July 23rd. So this one's on day number 6.5, I believe. And this one on average, if memory serves me correctly, 6.5. If memory serves me correctly, these typically take about 21 bars. So that's 10.5 days basically. Am I doing that right? About 10.5 days. Anyways, so, it'd still be suggesting probably like early next week if it is going to play out. So basically what I would also say is that, hey, if you see Bitcoin continue sideways here, especially into the weekend, without really breaking the low that we saw on the 1st of August on Tuesday, that would be a good indication that, hey, a bear trap will very likely emerge from this region. But until that time, until like the next, I would say 3 to 4 days, or more like 4 to 5 days, basically like Monday, Tuesday of next week, it's pressure onto the downside. The ball's in the bear's court, and if they are going to push, that's very likely the time frame that they do it in. And if it doesn't happen by then, at that point, you can probably expect some nice upside moves, or at least a try for an upside move here. But again, just a jewel-based setup, pretty damn simple. Jewel light coming below, I believe it is 38 in this case, turning wide on that first tick alongside PMARP being below 40 percentile. That has aligned with the statistics that we do see right here for this particular one. Similar to yesterday's. Yesterday's was obviously a downside setup. In this case, this one's an upside setup. But just kind of going off of the days right there, that's kind of where I'm getting that from. So until then, pressure's onto the downside, but it's just the same as before. It's like until Bitcoin actually really starts to close below these lows, it's kind of hard to be looking for any sort of major continuation. But yeah, another boring day in crypto land. It's absolutely insane. But that's what you can expect for, the summer months, typically July, August, and maybe even a little bit into September as well. But as September gets underway, people get back into their trading desks. The big boys are back, at work yet again, off vacation with their families because, their kids had vacation for summer and blah, 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 blah. And then it's game on. So I expect that this is going to be a bit more waiting, to be fair. But yeah, that's going to do it for today. I want to, just, a quick little warning that if there is going to be downside, today's probably a damn good day for it. If Bitcoin kind of survives these next few days, at that point, you're going to start to see me switch back on to looking towards some upside, maybe back above $31,000 actually. All right, sweet. Good place for me to be leaving off. As always, wish you the best. Take care, much love, and see you hopefully Friday. Take care.